I decided to use a hand puppet because the rant I want to make is a sensitive one. And maybe if I make a hand puppet, a buffalo, a species driven to near extinction by humans, whether it was firearms, like people in trains, driving across the prairie, taking pot shots at, bison, buffalo, because we were in the way. Well, they were. I'm just a hand puppet. Speaking for, the idiot over there. A neighbor of mine got a shocking visit from a police officer because his brother out on the West Coast decided to take his life with a firearm. A common way for middle-aged men to end their lives. It's not uncommon. It's so not uncommon that it's kind of like, bison running off short cliffs and dying in a pile of bones after we've been scared, and herded into that situation. Now, my neighbor, who's a friend, and someone that I worry about, is preparing to drive all the way from the West Coast back here, so give or take 2,400 kilometers, 20 to 30 hours of driving if he drives straight, which is crazy, in November. Snow is falling. And he's not quite out of the shock stage of what his brother did. His brother prepared for this, or appears to have prepared for this, from the small report that I got from my neighbor. Suicide is, for lack of a better word, selfish. Self-centered. And whatever preparations that were made, they're never enough. And they'll never be enough. And they will never, ever comfort the people who are left behind. Funerals, just because it has fun in the name, does not mean they are fun. Funerals are not for the dead, but for the living, and how the living deal with people being dead. I mean, if I go with this hand puppet and, the buffalo and, being chased off a cliff so that they make a pile of bones, at least that served a purpose. There was an economic and, frankly, energy idea, because people got energy. People fed off, the hump. Used the horns. Made use of my skins. There was a purpose to it. Suicide. There is no real purpose to it. Whatever pain or suffering that the person who committed suicide was experiencing, it's over for them. But the effects are passed on to the family and friends and everyone around. My mother has spent, as far as I'm aware, the majority of my lifetime, I don't have many memories from when I was a small child, threatening to kill herself. She suffers from depression. Chronic, chemically induced brain imbalance. clinical depression. She once said to me, "You don't understand. You'll never know what I'm feeling and experiencing and the pain that I am in. You can't understand depression. You've never lived with it." Well, I asked her, "You were there when I was born, right?" "Well, I've lived with your depression my entire life. And while I don't understand your experience, my experience with depression ain't that great. It is strange to live with the concept that someone is threatening and may take their life. And be happy that they are. Because it's the ones that don't threaten, who don't ask for help by threatening suicide, the ones who keep it secret, quiet. And then you have to suffer through the shock. Like my neighbor with his brother, who appears to have prepared for this. Not as well as he could have, but he prepared for it. Like a cousin of mine did. She prepared for it. And it seemed to come out of the blue. Suicide sucks. It really does.